That's fine.
Okay.
Are you close to the Wi-Fi router, Diggy?
Yes.
Okay. Super.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah, there you go. Full face there.
Okay.
Doc is saying hi. Doc Sujit has said hi to you.
Hi, Sujit. Thanks for supporting all those talks as well. I appreciate them.
Hey, Steven, how's it going? So good that we have you here today, Diggy, and I think people need to know a lot of things today. Good. What you've
All
done
right.
behind the scenes, you know?
Well, I appreciate that. I think it'll be interesting. You've taken us down memory lane for sure.
Yeah.
Are we going to wait for some time? If you want to.
Yeah, we'll just wait for some time because I just put it on today
Okay.
just now. So we'll just wait a
Okay.
bit and then we'll start. And well, how's it been with you, Diggs?
Pretty good. Yeah, I've used my time, I think, quite productively last 3-4 weeks at least.
Right.
I think the first week was maybe in a long time there was a bit of a break in a break sense. But
Right.
I think fortunately I've been able to use the time quite productively.
Super. And what have you been doing? You're putting down your
Uh,
book, you're writing your memoirs. What is it? Something to do with writing down something for sure.
I've been no, nothing of the sort, but reading,
Yeah.
writing, learning new things,
Oh,
uh,
super.
exercising after a long time. Just
Wow.
trying to get set for the fact that the reality is that when things open up, it's going to be quite challenging in many ways. Yeah? One doesn't know
Yeah, I
what's going to be
believe
coming.
so. Yeah, because we don't know what's on the other side. Actually, we don't even know when that other side is. You know,
Yeah,
that's the amazing part that for the first time we don't know when it's going to open. I mean, the way things are right now, I don't think they should open again.
well, it looks like they're talking about June, and the thing is, the virus hasn't gone away. Even in June, it wouldn't have gone.
No, it
So
won't.
the way you do things would have to be very different.
I just hope the time was well spent in getting the infrastructure correct to support us when we get ill. You know, because this kind of
Absolutely.
virus, this is not going away. This is definitely not going away. So, you know, I think lots of promises of new hospitals or beds or increasing the numbers. I think that's what they're getting ready with. That's all this is for.
Absolutely. I think they're just gearing themselves up for what is yet to come. But let's hope it's something that India can manage, and handle quite well.
Yeah, because surely it's not going away so fast. So that's only management which is going to do the best thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
golf. Sujit asked, golf courses won't be open before August. Don't know, Sujit. Frankly, I don't think anybody knows. You know, I don't think it's up to industry anymore. You know?
Yeah, I think some people in the industry are making a case that golf, fortunately, is the one sport where you can manage social distancing. But I think the government's got more than enough on its plate to worry about golfers getting onto a golf course at this stage. So I think it'll take some time.
Right. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be very tough. Hi, JJ. How's it going in Coimbatore? Mr. Chakola.
Okay.
Okay, so people are going to keep on joining in. I think they're coming in slowly, and
Okay.
it's a good thing. Simi out there, Simi, what a lovely chat that was with you yesterday. Thoroughly
Yeah,
enjoyed
quite
it.
enjoyed it. Quite enjoyed
Uh,
it. Absolutely. Semi at her authentic best. Semi, well
oh, it's
done.
fantastic. It was fantastic. I mean, straight from the heart. Simi was frank like that. She's always been like that. Brilliant. I mean, that's what I like about Simi. No holds barred.
That's it takes a lot of courage to be as authentic she is. There she
Well,
goes.
there's a courage right there. I had a crush on Diggy growing up. Diggy.
And my wife is completely okay with it. She's very fond of Simi though.
Oh, Meeta's a sweetheart. She won't have a problem with Simi at all.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, people are start coming in. So, Diggy, tell us a little bit about yourself, and let's talk a bit about your golf, Diggy. You know, a lot of things haven't been heard about your golf by these guys of today. So, okay, Diggy, stop blushing. And let's hear a bit about your golf.
Okay, but Romit, first let me just compliment you. I think what you started is a very, very nice thing. The fact that you're uh, pulling back a lot of history and getting people acquainted to what has been done to build the sport. Um, and I think what we had this chat today, and Jesse said this pretty much similar things, that the past is very important to see where you have come from and where you
Right.
can take it forward. So I like what you're doing. Thanks so much, and thanks for having me on the show. I was quite blessed. I was born into a family. Dad was a passionate sportsman. I think he really enjoyed the fact that the kids should play some game, play some sport, and he was very clear that I had to make sure I got my marks as well. But as far as sport was concerned, there was complete support. I remember we got posted to Bombay, and when you go to Bombay initially, if you don't know anybody, I had 2 months on hand, and I just started playing, and I kind of improved quite rapidly there,
Right.
and had some great support from the club, the members, etc. I think I dropped from a 18 to a 4 or 5 handicap within about 18 months to about 2 years, and I started doing fairly well and started getting more involved with the process of winning. Um, I think one day my school put up a small cutting of mine on the notice board, and the
Hmm.
kind of motivation that gave, and stuff my dad was doing to also motivate me and push me a little bit. Um, I tended to do fairly well in amateur golf at the Bombay level, but fortunately, I also learned a couple of very interesting lessons. So, during our times, there was no golf coaching per se. We just read a lot of books. Dad was photocopying and getting stuff across. He fortunately had a good swing, so, I picked up a lot by just watching him. And I remember, I forget the year, but I was playing the All India Amateur, and I was playing a player called Arthur Pierce. He was a British Walker Cup player. I was leading on the 17th and on the 18th tee, and I then duck hooked my drive and lost the 18th, and did the same thing on the second playoff hole to lose.
Wow.
And in those days, the only way we learned is that whenever you played a tournament, you would find the best player, go up to him, and request him to come and watch you hit some balls, take some notes. And Arthur was very well respected in the golfing circle, so I did the same with him. I asked him, listen, tell me how can I get better.
Hmm.
So he said a couple of very nice things, but he also said that you have an Achilles heel in your swing, which is your grip, and if you don't correct it now, you'll be a good player, but it's always going to show up under pressure, and you're going to struggle to manage it. So my suggestion is change it now. And it wasn't an easy change. It sounds very simple, just a grip change, and but I worked on it. It took 6 months to actually correct it. But soon after doing it, I had a spate of victories. Fortunately, by the time I'd finished college, I'd done okay. And Dad said, "Listen, why don't you just take a year off and try and make the Indian team?" And that was my biggest ambition,
Wow.
really.
What a dad,
So
man.
yeah,
That was good.
unbelievable for
Great.
an army officer to say, "Listen, one year
Yeah.
you just go and play golf."
In
So
those
that's what I
times,
did
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
in those times. Yeah. So, and I'd been a stat student, so I'd actually worked out what I needed to work on, different parts of the game. I'd broken it down to how many hours of practice, what to work on. I had a very interesting plan laid out. And then the swing change was part of it. And as soon as everything fell into place, it just kind of switched. And I won my first trip out of India was Sri Lanka. I won there. I won the national games. I won the Asian game trials. And just a couple of things. It just kind of started falling into place. But the
Right.
important point was that bit of information which came at the right time, uh, and the difference it made. Because the amount of
Right.
time we wasted as kids trying to, learn through trial and error and, trying to retract mistakes half the time. We wasted a lot of time to get the right instruction at the right time. So that seed was planted in my brain that, that's something I see value in and I got to do something about it. But anyway, I played amateur golf for about 4 years. Was very fortunate. Had some great support. I worked with two companies. There was a company called Genelec, which is a sister concern of GC. So the managing director, Mr. Raj Segal, was a very passionate golfer. He had me join on as a management trainee.
Right.
Now, I was the only non-engineering trainee there, doing engineering work. Pretty interesting. Great support too. But then I wanted to play some more, and I got a very nice offer from Mr. Gaikwad, Mr. Sangram Gaikwad, who's the managing director of Baroda Corporation.
Right.
Um, fabulous gentleman, and you heard Brandon also mention that he supported him as well. So he took me on and he said, "You work and play golf as well." And for 4 or 5 years, I just did that, and was a great learning.
In fact, you mentioned
Then,
Baroda Rayon. I still remember Baroda Rayon. Sorry to cut in there, but
yeah,
Baroda Rayon still used to give out the hole-in-one trophy at that time. I won a hole-in-one trophy which said Baroda Rayon from IGU.
wow,
This was way back, yeah. So I think they used to sponsor the
okay,
hole-in-one for IGU associate members or whatever we used to have, in the club
that's
bill.
right,
So you used to play the
that's right.
hole-in-one subscription. So you used to get the Baroda Rayon trophy. I remember that
Okay.
one.
And they started
Okay.
the Bombay Inter Club as well. So while I was working for them, I used to also run that event. And it's
Yeah.
become a beautiful event now, which, Shivas and Amit have done a great job with it. But coming back to those days, after finishing, I got married, and then you realize that you had to support yourself. And, we didn't have a pro circuit to play more golf in. So I started working. And after some time, I realized I needed to do something on my own. I mean, that entrepreneurial bug was, always there.
Right.
And luckily, I had this idea, and I was bouncing it off with my friend, and he said, "Just go for it." So, in a snapshot, what it was that I was already on the committee of BPGC, and
Mm-hmm.
while at Baroda Rayon, I had a chance to do a lot of research and many things. Also researched golf quite a bit, and what was very clear is that the capacity of the golf course, midweek capacity, was being totally underutilized in terms of number of rounds that one can play, taking daylight hours into account, and versus what was being actually played, the utilization was, well under 5% midweek. Weekends
Wow.
was a lot higher, but definitely not 100% as yet. So I approached the committee and I said, "Listen, what I will do is let's set up an academy where our objective would be to get new people into the game, and we'll set up a full curriculum for it." There was a 45-hour curriculum, there was a 60-hour curriculum. And once these guys have gone through the learning process, they will be golfers, and then they can play midweek by paying green fees. And in case they do well, you can also offer them a membership. So it took some time to get it cleared by the committee, because it was quite a new idea to in those times. Luckily, there was a very proactive committee. There was a gentleman called Captain Harsh and a couple of other people who were
Right.
very visionary. By the time I trained myself, how would I train? I never had formal training to teach. So I went to child psychologist, I went to orthopedics, I did the landmark forum just to be able to understand how to communicate more effectively, and devised a curriculum, keeping all that in mind. And once the club agreed, we had thought we'd have about, 30, 40 people join up. With one press release, Romit, 200 people signed up in 3 days. And
Wow.
you can imagine BPGC with no driving range of its own, but they allowed us to use the first fairway, the 16th fairway. We would start at 6 a.m. until dusk. We were running it 24/7. A lot of my
Wow.
students became managers, and a lot of the coaches joined us. We did train the trainer. We did some pretty crazy stuff, and it made a big difference to the ecosystem at that time, because at least about I think about 10, 15 people bought memberships. A lot of them started playing golf regularly. And I got invited to the Asia Pacific Golf Conference to speak about it, as to how to market golf in emerging
Right.
markets. There was, in fact, a very interesting side episode there, that there was a gentleman called Dr. Gary Wyron who was in the
Right.
audience. After the conversation, he came up to me and he said, "I'm pretty impressed by what you're doing, and how are you doing it? And, what are you following? What's the process?" So I had the curriculum with me, and I showed him the entire thing, and he couldn't believe it. He said that, "You're doing this in India? That's quite remarkable, because all that we knew about India is, snakes and elephants, and, actually radically very poor information." He was somebody who had scripted the PGA manual of
PGA
golf.
manual, yeah.
So he actually went up, bought me a copy, and presented it to me. So that was a bit of a highlight for me. But in a nutshell, that's how the academy had started. We ran it very successfully for about 2 years. And it was called the Albatross Golf Academy. We have an Albatross store now, but
Yeah.
that was the academy at that time, and I think must compliment the committee at that time for encouraging it and letting it happen. And at about that time, something very interesting happened. Arvind Khanna had very proactively and visionary made an offer to the PGA to start a golf circuit.
Yeah, that's
Brandon
right.
was invited to be a consultant. I was invited to be a consultant. And there was a partner called Asia Sport Group who were actually partners with Arvind, and they were running the tour together. And Brandon and I remember just going to Delhi for just a sales meeting, and we were told by Asia Sport Group that they're pulling out of India. They had done some few events. They had bought SAF football into Goa. They lost some money on it. They did some, Asian bodybuilding. They lost money on that. They were being told by their bankers to pull out of India. And they told me and Brandon that, listen, our recommendation is that we know what you guys have done, what you're capable of. What we suggest is that you pick up our shares in the company in lieu of picking up the losses of the company and take it forward. And Romit, this was quite interesting. I'd gone to Delhi for just a 2-day trip. And Brandon had come down from Calcutta. And he just stayed on for another 10 days, and so did I. And I think we did a complete MBA in those 2 weeks that we were there. And we said okay to them. We didn't have a rupee in our pockets. The losses were fairly substantial. But we've had the confidence that, we'll be able to recoup it. And you won't believe it, I never went back to Bombay. My wife, she shifted everything down in one go, and we just set up base in Delhi. And that's how we took over the Indian PGA Tour. And I think we got pretty lucky with we were able to do some pretty crazy stuff that were quite pioneering in those days. But that's how the PGA Tour actually started for us.
Right. This was in what, 97, 98, somewhere there, 97?
This was about 98, 99.
98, 99. Yeah, that's right. I remember.
And we'd just been a few months into the tour, and there was a serious amount of brainstorming done. And I think it's worth actually sharing some of the stuff I think we did, because it made a difference.
I understand. I remember your media cell, and you had a lot of TV guys coming in, learning from, you used to send them to me also a lot of times. Please, can you teach them what a approach shot is and what is a bunker? Could you take them around the club and show them? I used to get these 20 guys who were media guys at that time, writers for Hindustan Times, Times of India, stuff like that. Used to send them. I remember that. Yeah, Joy used to come with them. Yeah.
Yes. So one of the things we realized straight away is that when you try to sell golf at that time, there were a lot of negative perceptions in the marketplace about the sport. It was an old man's sport, a rich man's frivolous waste of time. And unless that perception changed, we couldn't really sell the sport. So we just realized, and we spent a lot of time deliberating internally, and we said, let's set up a media division which would focus on building brand golf. And idea was that, if golf and its perception changed, then it would make it easier for sponsors to come in, because till then it had been a passion-driven sponsorship versus being a ROI-driven sponsorship by a marketing department of a company who could justify the investment into the sport.
Right.
So we made an effort. We found the best talent. Joy used to be in Bombay in Express over there.
Right.
We motivated him to leave Express, a great place to work, to come and join and work with us to head the division. He set up a great team of kids. We had you met all those guys, Ashwin, Sujoy, and then Swami joined us for quite some time as well. Right. So we've focused very hard on creating a sense of education within the media about what the sport was. So all the cities in the country where the tournaments were likely to go, and we were planning to take them, we actually started working on a strategy where we would spend a lot of time with all the media houses, getting the key people in the sports desks onto a golf course to tell them what golf was about. We did clinics, we had contests, we tried to get them to understand the sport better so that then they could write and their copy would get better. Right. Because in India you can understand cricket, you can understand an off-cutter, and you can understand a googly and a leg spin, but nobody understands a fade and a draw if you're reading a nice article,
True.
And these guys couldn't really appreciate it. And players, there were these journalists like Shashank Shekhar, Rakesh Rao and all, who were fabulous. I mean, the kind of effort they made to understand and get a full, complement of people together. So what happened is, within 2 years of doing this, the media respected our efforts and the kind of support they gave, that suddenly, from micro column centimeters every month, we were getting these huge write-ups. And one could actually then go to a sponsor and say, listen, this is the media value that you're going to generate. And that actually helped get a lot of sponsors into the fold. So like that, we got into television production. We again found a really good talent in Ajay Kapoor. We produced a TV show for ESPN, and then we produced it for 10 Sports. So Indian golf in those were the very early days. So television production was something. So initially, Ajay used to do it for Nimbus and through Nimbus, and then we started producing ourselves. So we hired this guy called Syed, who did a great job with it, and in no time, I think we actually got to a stage and we were getting better TRPs than the English Premier League. And we got a mail from 10 Sports saying, listen, guys, congratulations. There are more people watching the Indian golf show than they're actually watching the Premier League. So those are, very, very early, interesting, pioneering days because we had to figure out how to shoot a golf tournament with 2 cameras, how to leapfrog it, how to make sure branding came in with very little money in our pockets. So there were guys running with moving boards, and a camera angle was predestined, and suddenly he would go and plonk a board and there would be a camera behind trying to make sure that the board was covered. So a lot of stuff was done. And I think over time, we managed to get the right structures in, SOPs in, people in. And interestingly, Tiger Sports at that time, from 12 events with 30 odd people, 35 odd people, in about 4 years, we were doing in excess of 100 events with the same team.
Wow.
Quite interesting. I think a couple of other interesting things we did were that we managed to educate a lot of clubs on how to give respect to a professional golfer.
Right.
You see, a professional golfer was not going to get better if he didn't feel that he was as good and if not better than somebody else. But there was a time when we had a situation where, I wouldn't name the club at the moment, but one of the well-known clubs refused entry for some of the pros into their restaurants and changing rooms. And Brandon, and to his credit, he had gone there to set this event up, and he said, listen, if this is what you're going to do, we're going to pull the event. Now, pulling an event that time was very difficult because, every sponsor mattered, and to pull an event meant we would not be able to demonstrate performance because we had to deliver a certain amount of prize money every year. But we actually pulled an event and told these guys that, how are you going to produce champions? I mean, what you're doing is quite similar to saying Ballesteros is going to be sitting outside, whereas somebody from a rich background can sit and have, lunch in your restaurant or go to the changing rooms. So there was stuff like this which was done as well, which was quite bold, I think, quite transformatory. And I think what helped is that internally our team was pretty strong. Brandon was, a great leader. You've all seen him, great marketing guy. And he would make the big sale, and then we would make sure that we deliver on them. And luckily, we put together a team of people who are today, fortunately, all are leaders in their own domains, in whichever part of the industry they're in. But we put a lot of emphasis into training, internal training, and getting sure that they started appreciating the nuances on many fronts. And once we got to a certain level, then that's the time we invested time into saying, okay, now that we have a pro tour to market, and the longevity of it depends upon the quality of the players coming through. So, it's important to also incubate and also make sure that we're getting the right talent through. So that's how the junior national amateur tour was, put together with the IGO and then the senior amateur tour as well. And I think at that time, a lot of pioneering work done by Mr. Bhandari and Surjit Dugal, who actually approached us to say, listen, this is what we plan to do. We all resonated with their vision. And for us, we realized that unless you have good, talented amateurs coming through, we're not going to have success on the professional fronts, because eventually the ecosystem had to change. An Indian parent had to start seeing value in his child turning professional. Because if he didn't do that, then golf was always going to be the second thing you did as a second option. And there were always plan Bs that people worked on, which were actually plan As. Golf would become a plan A only if they saw that there was a career opportunity for the player.
Right.
And the career meant that the player was getting respect, he was making decent money to be able to live a life of honor. And, he was getting respected in the media, he was getting acknowledged across the country and making decent living out of it. And the key was also to get kids from good families to come into the sport as well, because after all, the look and feel also was very important. I think all these few things actually did make a difference. And fortunately, we have a situation that today all the good work is being reflected and how the PGTI has taken it forward so beautifully.
Yeah, I think you guys set the base of what had to happen, what's happening now, but no one's really seen what went on and how you guys started from scratch. Like no one knew about
Yeah,
golf. Media never wrote about golf. Now it's
yeah.
like, oh, why, how come so many tours are being covered and stuff like that? No one wrote about golf. I remember that it was cricket, football, cricket mostly, but golf had no say at all. In fact, and you guys did
Romans, you won't
incredible
believe
job.
it. You won't believe it that we built up the team. We had about 6, 7 really high quality guys in the media team. So it was quite a heavy cost center at one stage. And we became the ecosystem of golf because then we were doing pro golf, we were doing amateur golf, we were doing junior golf, we were doing, at all levels. We
Yeah.
also started getting into coaching and, clinics so that there was a complete involvement in the ecosystem. And these 7 guys in the media team were just doing some pure magic anyway. Then we said, listen, let's now convert this into a profit center. I remember Joy rolling his eyes, says, how can you convert a media center into a profit center? And to his credit, in 6 months, he had made it happen because then we were suddenly supplying content to all the websites that were coming up that time. We started supplying content to a golf magazine. Eventually, we took over the entire content production of the magazine. And again, the entire emphasis was on the fact that unless people are reading and getting enthused by the sport, and started seeing that it's not an old man's waste of time. In fact, the game has so much value in it. And unless these platforms were exercised appropriately, it wouldn't have happened. So that's what was done in those days. Yeah.
So how come you guys didn't focus on women's golf like Simi's asking?
Actually, Simi, if you remember, we did the skins. We
Yeah,
had
she
all
played that. She
intentions.
played that.
We had all intentions to do women's golf. Simi was instrumental in putting together that skins. I think she got 3 of the finest golfers.
Yeah,
I
Laura
forget the
Davies.
names.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we had a wonderful tournament at the DLF. It was televised, and eventually the PGA Tour transferred into a PGTI Tour. At that point of time, in that flux and shift and change, a lot of things changed for us as well. And even though we're still working with the PGTI, but the reality is that we couldn't go through with the women's tour, but that was completely on the plans. On the plans were a book on golf, a movie on golf, and things like that. And you never know, inshallah, it'll happen one day.
yeah, absolutely. Surely, the movie will definitely be there. I know you, Diggy.
Okay.
That's good. So I'm very glad that you've come out with this because I played a lot of things also in a part in these things. I know I had a small episode in your TV show, which was Tips with Romit. I remember shooting that with Saeed. About
Right.
40 to 50 episodes of that one I went on. Yeah, I
Okay.
know. We used to sit the whole day just to get me saying the same thing over and over again, which I couldn't get in the beginning. Because it
Okay.
was it was a learning for me at that early stage, but now I'm a little bit easy with TV. But at that stage, it was like talking to a camera. How can you do this? I knew everything, but just words just didn't never came out.
I know it freezes you when it happens for the first time, and then you
Yeah,
get
yeah,
then you
yeah.
get used to it eventually. Yeah.
That's right. I also did a lot of articles for the Golf Plus magazine, I remember, the
That's
training
right.
articles and the news articles. So Brandon and you made sure that it was a very indigenous magazine. You didn't take content from here and there. You filled it up with content from India, which
Right.
was brilliant because nowadays, a lot of magazines, they also got outside content in them. But you guys at that time actually made a very made in India magazine.
It
And,
was actually
it was a
Golf Style
very,
that time. The magazine was
yeah, I
called
know.
Golf Style.
I
That's
know,
right.
I know. I remember it was golf style. Yeah, yeah. I have a lot of those magazines in the house because it had me in it, and of course a lot of golf. So brilliant stuff, Diggy. I mean, that was heartbreaking at that time what you guys did. Even you guys marketing, something very important. You guys marketed the junior tour and the amateur tour. Now, that was something so big. Today they're struggling with junior golf and amateur golf for the simple reason there's not much people, not much takers out there. You guys got in money. I don't know how you got in money for junior golf. It's very difficult. And it made the costs very less for the parent to come in. Today the costs are high to play junior golf. Tournaments cost money because courses cost money. No one understands that the entry fee that they are paying, everything actually goes back into the system. As in terms of profit, actually junior tour operators lose money. Like you said that
Right.
I wish it was a profit center, but most often than not, junior tours are losing money and people are thinking, oh no, the entry fee is too high. There are 100 people playing. They're making so much money. No, no, that's not the case at all.
No,
Come
I
and
know.
see
I mean,
from our side.
absolutely. Yeah.
you
Anybody
know,
who's looking at golf from outside thinks that golf is a rich man's sport, and
yeah,
everything around it must be very, very, rosy. You know the
yeah, no,
realities
no.
are. Yeah. I think
Infrastructure costs money.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
The advantage we had is, we had a very high quality operations team. We had nurtured them very, very carefully. So they, we didn't need five, six people to run an event. Two guys could at one point run an event completely. So we were cutting a cost down over there. We had a very strong media platform, so we could go to a sponsor and say that, listen, you get coverage on television, you get coverage on, magazine, you get coverage on media, and we also did a lot of other work to try and see how companies could leverage and show the ROI internally. So we did a lot of studies. We, went to places. We actually, I remember going to a couple of management institutions to see how we could quantify the value we were delivering. Funnily enough, nobody could tell us what to do. And my own brother-in-law said, listen, why don't you take a stab at it yourself? Put a story together, which we did then. So we actually put values to every single thing that was being done. And actually, we were able to figure out that golf was delivering some significant value to sponsors. And when some sponsors started seeing that, they were actually able to say, okay, listen, I didn't realize that this is what I'm getting in addition to what I just thought I was getting. It's like, your shoe wasn't polished well enough to see how clean it was. So once we started showing them the value they were getting, it became a lot more easier to convince somebody that this is why you need to do it. So the pro-ams were built very, very carefully. A lot of work was done to make sure you got the right people into the pro-ams in terms of both prospective sponsors and, in terms of clients that a sponsor could leverage to do more business with. So the business development angle also started coming in to some extent. We would try and make sure that a sponsor in a certain industry was seeing a lot many more players where he would be able to, hopefully get business from down the line. And these few things, I think, where we went fairly deep, did make a difference.
So by popular choice, Diggy, let's talk about Pink Elephant at the Oberoi Grand in Calcutta. So Brandon has some fond memories of that place and you.
I know
we have
mine.
some.
He'll tell you about how we would be just skinching on a few rupees and figuring out how we're going to share the entire cost to manage it. So.
Brandon, Diggy's turning pink. I don't know what you've said about this Pink Elephant, but it's more like the pink Digraj in the house.
Yeah, actually, Romit, I must tell you, in those days, amateur golf used to be great fun. I mean, the kind of camaraderie that was there. We'd be all traveling. We weren't playing that many tournaments. We'd play maybe 5, 6 tournaments. But they would be all staying together. We'd all be rooming together, rooting for each other. Brandon would end up becoming the, ringmaster, that you'd everybody washing their clothes at the right time and they're eating at the right time.
Oh, really?
So, these kind of things are happening.
Hello?
But even though he had turned pro, Brandon, yeah, I can see that. But we still managed to take the benefit of your place. So, yeah, it's great fun.
Yeah. Lots of stories about you also, Digraj. I've heard a lot of fancy stories. India, Sri Lanka.
If you heard them from Uttam, they're all false.
All these soft drinks,
These golfing stories will buried it someday or the other.
The cola stories. No, they need to come out.
I think somebody's going
to... more about your monthly hair wash.
I suspect if some of the parents came to know about the stories, they'll stop sending the kids for golf.
No, they'll send them to you because they said, this guy's done it all. He's safe. He's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Great. Super stuff. Yeah, Diggy. Brandon always, puts a smile on your face, it seems, yeah. And it was a great team. So whatever you've explained today, I think it's been a great ride for you guys. And what you've just said about how you built it up from scratch was unreal.
Yeah, I think we got lucky. I mean, we had good support in Arvind being there. The entire team internally was quite motivated. We used to enjoy going to work. I mean, there was never a moment where, because there's something new being done every day. And I think those things actually helped. And yeah, there was a lot of concept selling to be done to convince somebody to get into golf, or a club to agree to some of those things that we do. But yeah, it's been quite gratifying at the end of it.
Right. Super stuff, yeah, Diggy. And let's talk a bit about something called the Indian Golf League, which you started. Remember, you started something called the Indian Golf League to grow the game.
That's right. Um, well, actually, it began from a similar insight that, if you look at India, that all the work that had been done was getting people to a stage when they were saying, "Ki, haan, yaar, golf khelte hain." Earlier on, there used to be a lot of negative perceptions. And even if somebody got interested in the idea, it seemed like a really tough thing to go and actually become a member and play. All the stories of 30-year memberships, etc. It does keep people away. But if you look at the reality that other than the 95 odd courses which are with the army, the balanced courses are totally underutilized, excepting for 5 or 6, courses in the clubs in the country which are, well used, and you can't get a tee off time on the weekends. But that's a very, very handful number of them. So the idea was to again use that midweek capacity of these courses, which were lying practically unused, and create opportunities for their members to play in tournaments, and to have other people and other members from different clubs and non-golfers come and play on those courses. So we put this concept together. We call it the Indian Golf League, and we had actually three very successful runs of it. And the idea actually took on very well, because each time in each season, the number of people who played doubled. And for the first year, I think we had 500 people play. And the second year, we were touching about 1,000 odd. And then third year, we had 2,500 people, 3,000 people, I think, played. Unfortunately, at that point of time, our title sponsor, Thomas Cook, the company, got sold just when we were about to launch the 4th edition. And we didn't want to step back into cutting costs and doing it then, because till then we'd been investing only from our pockets. So while it was a huge concept success, it wasn't as commercially successful as one would have thought. And we ended up losing a bit of money on it, unfortunately. But the other flip side was that I got invited to the Yale School of Management Golf Summit to speak about it. Again, quite an honor that way to, I didn't think that Yale would, find somebody in India doing a league like this and call me. But it turned out to be a very, very interesting episode. But unfortunately, it didn't work then. But interestingly, what I foresee now is that the same concept may become of fairly significant value once the COVID is over, and people get back, because I think sponsors are going to be not coming back in a hurry. And if people want to play events and experience the opportunity of playing different courses, and courses look at different opportunities of generating revenues other than pure, green fees or, events paying them their, capitation fees, which might reduce now. It is concepts like the Indian Golf League, which would perhaps create an opportunity for the clubs to make some more revenue, and also create an opportunity for, everybody to play different courses. So we might just take a stab at it and take it forward.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe events might become a little bit more realistic for operators to actually conduct them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, it had gone to a stage where the clubs were just too expensive, and commercially nothing was viable to actually make happen.
I think that's what's been happening. I think the ROI on golf was, corporate golf at least, has been reducing. So either the events have become exceptionally expensive, which is what, frankly, corporate golf is all about, where you really want to take care of somebody, then you just don't look at anything and you go all out and do something fabulous so it's memorable, but that takes money. But the other standard events who were midway, and they suddenly realized that it was per person cost was getting too expensive, and the businesses couldn't justify it. And maybe at the same time there were other things that they could do to do business development, and so in the last year or so we've seen a bit of a reduction in corporate golf, and
Right.
I think now post the COVID it's going to be far worse.
Yeah, unless everybody, all
So
stakeholders actually come together to figure out the
absolutely.
cost of the product.
So we're hoping that this, the Indian Golf League will do a bit of a resurgence over there. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad that you're going to get that back, because it was a great event, and a lot of people who weren't members of a lot of clubs used to go and play these tournaments, and they used to love it. I think you guys served beer after the round, and I think they loved it.
Yeah, it was great. And we made it mandatory for caddies to play. We made it mandatory for juniors, the top juniors to play, and they would play free of cost. And we would make sure that there was something at all levels of golfers. We had different scoring systems, so that every level of golfers were engaged. And especially for non-golfers, we had the POS system as well. So I think it worked at all levels, and I think there's merit to bringing it back again, but hopefully at the right pricing. Yeah.
Couple of questions which come up. Just before I come to those questions, some people want to thank people like Dilip Thomas and Arvind Khanna, who Simi got supported by in her early years. And she said, these guys helped out. Arvind was very instrumental with TSM and Guardian Sports, from where he came
Yep.
from. And
Yeah.
I think as Guardian Sports, I think he was one of the earliest guys to support Simi when she went out to the LPGA as well. And they thank him, and Brandon comes in with, yeah, you're right. Arvind and Dilip made a huge contribution to support many players and the game.
And
So
frankly, I'm glad Simi mentioned it and Brandon too. These are guys who have not been acknowledged enough. What Dilip has done in terms of the events he used to put together, the sponsors, the sponsoring of golfers he used to do. I remember going and playing a tournament of his and being a host at at the event. It used to be fabulous and truly grassroots level development. Arvind setting up the PGA Tour, I think a very, very gutsy decision, in his time. And if I may say so, even Gautam Thapar taking it forward was also equally gutsy. He's put his money where his mouth is. I think these guys who have actually supported the sport need to be thanked. I think Brandon did the right thing in also thanking Mr. Pavan Munjal.
yeah,
We
that's right.
we got him into golf, and what he's doing today to support it is great. But it began with just one small whole sponsorship. It went on to become a tour sponsor, and now the national circuit, and what he's doing for ladies golf is quite phenomenal. So I think a lot of people out there, unsung heroes, not really known about. I was mentioning to you, I think, about Mr. Bandy Lal, that's Nonita's father, who actually was instrumental in
Yeah,
putting together the PGA, or Mr.
right,
Manjeet Singh, who did a lot of work there, and subsequently all the people who have carried the mantle forward.
right.
Great, very, very well done, phenomenal efforts, but maybe not acknowledged enough yet.
Now that you say, post COVID-19, things will not be as easy, or sponsors might not be more forthcoming. So Neil Law from Calcutta, Neil runs this, Neil put together something with the West Bengal government, which is a 9-hole golf course and a driving range. And it's a phenomenal property. Diggy, if you ever go there in Calcutta, it's a place called Newtown, which is the Rajarhat, the new place that Calcutta developed. And Neil's put together this 9-hole golf course and this thing, driving range, and he asked, can par 3 courses be used for developing the game with 1-day or 2-day events across various categories? And Simi pitched in saying, better get the pros into it as well, Diggy.
You know, um, First of all, Neil, hi. I think what you're doing is fabulous. I heard your talk that day, and I do remember you. And I think that's the kind of stuff that's needed to be done. And I just hope, um, Romit, what you said very correctly is if more people know about this, the success of this can be the template which can be used for many other developing townships across the country. And now that you have the DMIDC and a lot of other townships which are being developed and planned, it can be an integral part of it because golf is, funnily enough, it's an anchor sport for a lot of foreign countries who are looking at investing and setting up teams in India. And a lot of these guys, I mean, Noida is a great example, how they use the JP Greens now and earlier it was Sterling Resorts to get companies to set up base in Noida. So I think coming back to what Neil's question is that templates like this are great. Can these be used to promote the sport? Yes. The key is that the first experience that somebody has of the sport has to be an enjoyable experience.
Right.
One cannot overemphasize the importance of that. If somebody's come to a golf course to have a golf lesson, and if he makes a fool of himself, he's going to go back with bad memories. That first experience has to be very enjoyable, and it has to be carefully crafted. So I think the structure in making sure that the introduction to golf and those clinics that you do, make sure they go back with a smile on the faces. And if you crack that bit, I think the numbers are going to grow very, very quickly. It's a
Right.
lesson we've learned, in hindsight. because initially when people would come and they would struggle to hit the ball, but once we picked out, what are the things to do to make sure they always make contact, and then now we can guarantee that within 15-20 minutes somebody will get the ball airborne, and then there's a grin all over the place and more people want to come back. So try and insist that that is done, and
Right.
you'll see the numbers change. In fact, I must at this point of time also compliment what we're doing at Bombay BPGC in Bombay. We started a junior program there, a very proactive committee there. In fact, we started about 2 years back. There was the captain then, Ashish Chemburkar. He took the initiative to put this together, and the current captain, Kuldeep Sandhu, was heading a junior committee at that time. And some of my old students, Parthiv, Uday, and all, very visionary. Why I'm mentioning this is also to say that this is the kind of work the clubs need to doing, because the juniors are the future of the game, and a lot of these clubs have got lands given by the government, and we have to be able to make a case for the fact that it's being used for the promotion of the sport. And I think as long as we all do our bit at the right places at the right time, the sport has to grow and will grow.
Excellent, excellent points, Diggy. I think a lot of goods coming out of this conversation, and you've already got a supporter, and one of the golf courses have already pitched in and said that I'm sure most of the courses will be ready to support IGL in the best of their capabilities, and his course definitely will. This is Saurabh from Golden Greens, who's
Oh, wonderful. Great.
who's definitely on with the IGL the moment it's about to start. So
Just
Saurabh
tell
has
Saurabh
helped us.
because, yeah,
You can tell him himself. He's there.
Saurabh, I must tell you, you gave us a good head start. Our first IGL event was held at the Golden Greens. Wing Commander Arun was there and Saurabh was there, and the kind of support we received was phenomenal. And that's actually helped it grow from one step to another. So yeah, we're going to come back to you and start with you first for sure. There's no two ways about it. Thanks.
Don't worry, Saurabh. I'm always there. You've always supported us so much. Junior golf has got so much. You've given them so much credit. It's unbelievable what you guys do. Every time I have a tournament, Saurabh's like, okay, how long do you want me to shut it for? Tell me how many holes you need. It's like he just comes forward with like, what do you want? Tell me what I can do for you. That's what Saurabh comes out with. It's crazy.
Romit,
Like,
it's people like this who are making a difference to how this game is going to grow. The kind of academy they set up, the encouragement they've given to, all those guys over there, the kind of encouragement BPGC is giving, Delhi Golf Club is giving. As you can see, that's where the total greenhouse is for development of golf. The Chandigarh Golf Academy and the Chandigarh Golf Course, the kind of encouragement they give the kids on weekends. A lot of clubs are struggling to give tee-off times to kids, but Chandigarh is doing that. PPGC is considering doing that. So these are all very, very important steps because once the kids start enjoying what they're doing, that's when they'll start playing. What we need to crack the code on now is how to make it a little more affordable, because not many kids can travel the amount they need to travel to play the tour and the kind of expenses that the parents are incurring at the moment.
right.
So, Romit, that's food for thought. I think if prize money has come into pro golf, and we had actually forecasted this, that one day Olympics will have golf, and when it comes to Olympics, it won't be the amateurs who are going to be playing; it'll be the best golfers in the world, and that'll be
It's the
professionals.
pros.
Right. So now that it's pros who are playing, it's going to happen with the Asian Games at some point or the other. Why would you have anybody but the best players playing for the country?
True.
And down the line, it's going to translate down to national teams, etc. Now, if squash can have junior tournaments with prize money, why can't we have junior tournaments with prize money for kids now? At least they'll recover some of the money. Because one very important talent pipeline which is getting lost in this bargain are the caddy kids. The parents can't afford to send them out. They can't afford to get them to practice. They're not getting enough time to practice, etc., etc. The challenges are quite huge. But this was such an important pipeline. And today, if you really look at the numbers and the percentage of kids coming from this pipeline versus what came from earlier,
They're dwindling, yeah.
sadly, it's dwindling quite rapidly. I mean, the next Russia or the next Ali Sher will be very hard to find. So I think that's something we need to wake up to. And if we start finding ways to getting them to somehow recover their investment by playing tournaments, I don't see any reason why we can't start a junior pro tour.
I'll be
Radical,
the
but
first.
I
I'll
think
be
is
the
worth.
first in line to run that. I'm telling you now. I'm absolutely for it, Diggy. And it's something that you've said is you've taken the words out of my mouth. This is something that needs to be done soon because we understand that the highest level is pro golf and someone should get paid back. Otherwise, where will parents get the money from? Not everybody has the money to travel throughout the year, leave their jobs, and just support their kids running around with them without any money coming back. And you're right,
Absolutely.
tennis has prize money, squash has prize money. A lot of sport has prize money, and why not? Why not junior golf?
So I think that's something which our thought leaders have to deliberate on, and maybe we need to help, support them in the decision making. But I think it's also time for all the major bodies in the country to sit down together and create a unified policy because the sport will need it now. You know, US golf, European golf, there was attrition for 10 years, they saw negative growth. I think for the first time last year, they had maybe 1% overall growth. But this is because all the bodies have come together and they're talking together and they're doing things like the First Tee program and they're doing many other things. In fact, when I went for that Yale School of Management Golf Summit, there were three enthralling days of conversations with industry leaders. So the work they were doing together, let's say the First Tee program to use golf as a sport to teach life skills and yet get more people into the sport. How to break down the barriers of intimidation which clubs tend to have for non-golfers and for ladies to come into the sport. So these are things which need to be, I think, worked on together. And if all of us and all these bodies get together, create a unified platform, I think then the government may actually come forward and maybe support it a lot more than perhaps is doing at the moment.
Well said, Digraj, well said. Because even when I was growing up, I remember, we could book tea times at the Royal. I grew up in Calcutta, so the Royal Calcutta Golf Club had a system. If you're a junior member or a normal member, it didn't matter. As long as you have booked your tea time, it could be a Saturday or Sunday, and you would have taken the prime time slot. As long as you're after the captain, which is fine, you
Okay.
could go and tee off, no problem. Yeah, because captain
Yeah.
always had prerogative. Yeah.
Right.
So good courses have money and they should sponsor the caddy kids, is what Simi says. RCGC does it. Sure, other courses do it too. Charge the members a one-time fee for growth of junior golf.
I must say, pretty pioneering work again being done by the BPGC in Chembur. We've got kids in a junior program who are there free of cost. We've got a program where there's mind training happening, and the gentleman who's doing it, Mr. G. Ravindran, whatever is being earned by the club is being used to feedback and support these kids. So there's good work happening, and I just hope these things continue and are taken up by the other clubs. Funnily enough, and I think a lot of credit needs to go to Akash Ori, DLF. They had a caddies tournament, and the kind of support they give to caddies there. It's a way of acknowledging what they're doing, and unfortunately, the caddies are poorly going to be the worst hit out of this entire thing for some time at least. So maybe a lot more needs to be done to just take care of them. I keep on hearing what you've been saying at the end of every talk, Romit. Very generous of that. Yeah, a lot more has to be done to support them. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And not only caddies, Diggy, when I'm speaking for the caddies, I'm not really particularly only saying caddies. There are lots of other staff also who needs to be supported over here,
Yeah,
including
absolutely.
some of the basic level teachers, they live hand to mouth. I see them at the driving range, they give that lesson for the day and then they go home. They give maybe 1 or 2 lessons a day, which is about 200 to 500 rupees, maybe maximum is what they earn in that day. So they don't have a means of earning. That's all they earn. And at this moment, I don't think they have much savings, so I think they also require it, even though they're teachers. I mean, that doesn't mean that, don't take away from them that they may be getting just 1 lesson or maybe 2 lessons in 3 days. There are lots of teachers out there.
Very true. I think from what I sense is because at least I'm aware of what PPGC is thinking is all and DGC for that matter as well. I think they both have got wonderful management teams. I'm not aware of what RCGC is doing at the moment, but I think all of them have got good people as presidents. Brijinder Singh at BPGC and Mr. Bedi here in DGC. They're actually doing a lot for the staff. They're doing a lot for the caddies.
Yeah, of course.
And the good thing is they're being thought about. Yeah.
Super. So everybody on this show also, just another appeal again to just look after these guys as best as you can, and Diggy has been so helpful with today. And Diggy, did I miss out anything that you want to discuss again? Anything more that you want to bring forward? I mean, you've already got so much going. I mean, it's a never-ending process for you. I know that you keep on trying to get out new ideas to help further the game of golf.
Um, Romit, interestingly, there is somebody who I'm trying to support at the moment. He's come up with a very interesting concept which helps increase the focus of the mind and helps sportsmen quite radically. It's so there's in fact Simi's done it and Simi is raving about it and she wants to now become a trainer herself. And maybe at some point we should ask Simi, maybe I'm going to have a chat with Simi very soon, where she should share that bit. I'm going to bring it to you and maybe some of the other coaches who are listening onto it to see, because eventually what you do when you about to hit a shot, the quality of your focus, the quality of your coordination can make a big difference. Yeah, that's it. It's called IMBO. It's innovative midbrain optimization, and it's amazing the way it's balancing the left side and the right side of the brain, and bringing your creativity to play because that's a very important element when you're competing. And like everybody's talking now, instead of just becoming too technical about the game, it's also important to learn how to play the game with what you have, irrespective of how well you're playing or how badly you're playing. I mean, a good player is somebody who manages the score and manages to play the golf course with what he has with him that day. So the idea is some of these things are going to be helping people get more dynamic with their creativity. And I'll share a lot more of it as we go forward.
Sure. Thank you so much, Diggy. Thank you so much for your time today. It was helpful and it's great to take away so many learnings and what we can do, once COVID is over. Whenever that is, let it take its time. Don't worry. We just want to get rid of it once and for all. We don't want to keep coming back and biting us. So we'll wait for that. We'll be patient enough. We'll hold on a bit more, a bit longer. But definitely would love to see a lot of these things that you just said in implementation by a lot of leaders in the industry. They've all been listening in and they will listen further because I'm going to put this on YouTube after a while. And they'll definitely take a look at this and figure out that what you have to say. Thank you so much, Diggy. Thanks for your
Great.
time.
Thanks so much for having me on board. And just want to thank everybody for listening in. Some of the stuff may sound outlandish, but we've been fortunate to have, made a profession out of a passion. So let's hope we can stay on this journey. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.